Hi, and welcome to a water-oriented journey through the Finnish summer. This video is for you if you're more interested in the country as a whole, its society, its landscapes, and how it's explored, rather than ticking off the main sites among big crowds. I'll be skipping the obvious, Helsinki Center. It's already well documented, and there are plenty of great videos about it. Instead, I'll take you to places that are less known, but very much worth discovering, both elsewhere in Finland and in the quieter surroundings of Helsinki. This video takes you extensively through the southern and central parts of the country, visiting all the places marked on the map. Finland is a country of nearly 200,000 highly fragmented lakes, with an almost endless amount of shoreline. Add to that a long Baltic Sea coastline. For Finns, these waters are an essential and self-evident part of summer life. For visitors, however, they are only rarely experienced, at least in the way we Finns experience them. I believe this is mainly due to a lack of information, but also to false expectations. In this video, I'll show you how we Finns explore and enjoy these environments. It's also worth noting that this far north, beach weather is never guaranteed. But when a heat wave does arrive, summer here can be far sweeter than most people imagine. I'll be skipping the other well-known Finnish destination, Lapland, this time. That's a story of its own, one I tell in a separate winter video, where we travel on skis through country's most iconic winter landscapes. So, welcome on board. Let's begin our journey in the suburbs of Helsinki, just beyond the most obvious destinations for visitors. As the capital cities are a kind of exceptions in most countries, I at least encourage you to go a little bit outside of Helsinki Center. On August 8th, we had a 4-hour bike tour in the island of Lauttasaari, just west of the city center, which is enough outside to have completely different landscape and atmosphere. We parked our car just west of this island in the suburban city of Espoo and continued by bikes. We cycled most of the quite long waterfront of this island, had excellent dinner, and had a look on many swimming places too. Today, Helsinki Center warmed up to 25.5 degrees, and by August 8th also the Baltic Sea had got warm to quite nice temperatures. I measured water temperatures in some places, but this time we didn't feel like swimming. Perhaps because of the salty water and the cold showers which would have been needed, or the odor of the Baltic Sea which was particularly strong in this day. We liked this island, particularly the seafronts, and the 2 rocky hills are very nice. The dinner in a restaurant by the sea, but in the forest, was also nice. This island is not far away from Helsinki Center, but already here you get some taste of the country outside it. About the first 20 kilometers, as the bird flies, of the waterfronts in both sides of the city center can be accessed by metro too. Wherever you decide to go, you could maybe utilize there the local city bikes or electric scooters because the distances usually are too long for walking if you want to explore almost anywhere. On August 14th, we visited the Vuosaari region in eastern Helsinki. My favorite beach anywhere near Helsinki is located here, on a beautiful sandy peninsula which stretches deep into the Baltic Sea. Water was 21.5 degrees far away from the shore and much warmer closer to it. It was amazingly warm considering the strong wind and quite cool weather of only about 21 degrees at the seafront. However, this beach is very shallow for several hundred meters, and the wind direction had favored this place for many days or even weeks. As you can see, mid-August is too late for experiencing the best summer in Finland. Even at this very popular beach, in an area of 1.5 million inhabitants, all the facilities are already closed despite the rather warm August. Later, we had a walk in the seaside of the Vuosaari housing area. There is a long beach in front of this intensively built area. This is the only one of its kind in Finland. Also here, the water was 21.5 degrees, but wasn't warmer than that in any spot. Eastern Helsinki is one of the most multicultural areas in Finland. The seafront here is at least as nice as in the western side of Helsinki, in Espoo, although both are very nice. However, as in the end we didn't feel like swimming in the sea, but we still wanted to swim, we headed to a small lake in the neighboring town Sipoo, some 22 kilometers or 25 minutes drive further northeast. Water here was 22 degrees, being today just marginally warmer than the sea. But the air temperature was 24 degrees, which was 3 degrees more, and the wind was almost non-existent. These 3 together made quite a difference, and we finally enjoyed the swim. This place has a beach, big dock, big grass area, and good services in the summer. It's maintained by a local sport club which charges €5 parking fee during the season. It had ended on August 11th, thus now it was free, but the services were closed too. Because there are not so many sweetwater swimming places in Helsinki area, during the season this place may get crowded. It wouldn't be right to skip the main beach in the nation's capital. On the next day, August 15th, we went biking to Helsinki Center and visited it. The water here was 21 degrees. Together with the not-so-warm weather at the seafront, we didn't feel it being warm enough and didn't really swim. This place used to be much more crowded in the past. Nowadays, there are much less parking places in this area, and they're expensive. It's only mid-August, and also here half of the facilities are closed already, including the dressing rooms. As the main beach in most cities, also this is particularly recommended for young people. Next, we'll visit Vantaa, Helsinki's northern suburban city, where the main airport is located. On July 7th, I decided to go and see the main swimming place there, how it looks in a poorer weather period like this. It is at Lake Kuusijärvi and is one of the most popular anywhere in the greater Helsinki area. Due to the poor weather, there weren't many people here. However, this place also has popular public saunas, and most people who are visiting those saunas also go for swimming in any summer weather. The water temperature was 20 degrees. This was actually quite okay, considering the not-so-warm and partly rainy weather of the preceding 7 days period. The water temperature was only less than a degree lower than the average daily high. Now, in the same context, I decided to show you this same swimming place exactly 1 month later, on August 7th. On that sunny day, the air in Vantaa reached 23.5 degrees, while the water here was 22. This time, the water temperature matched the average daily high of the previous 7 days, and was 5 degrees above the mean. These instances demonstrate that the water is often surprisingly warm in the afternoons compared to the air temperature of the previous days. This suggests that sunlight plays a significant role in warming the water. Additionally, the very short nights in the north prevent the air and water from cooling down significantly. There are not so many lakes near Helsinki. This is the only one in Vantaa, which is the northern suburban city of Helsinki. In Espoo, which is the western suburban city, there are some more. If you prefer to swim in a lake instead of the Baltic Sea or some pool, any one of them could be a good choice for you. A little further, in about 50 kilometers radius from Helsinki, my favorite lake beach is in Nurmijärvi, at Lake Sääksjärvi. However, it is exactly 50 kilometers and almost an hour's drive from the center of Helsinki, or almost half an hour's drive from the outskirts of the city. Additionally, you should notice that this lake is never the warmest because it is the biggest spring in Finland. However, the very long and beautiful sandy beach, exceptionally clear lake water, and nice landscape fully compensate the slightly cool water. August 25th was a warm day. We decided to head outdoors to the suburban cities of Vantaa and Espoo. The water in Lake Kuusijärvi had now cooled down to 20 degrees. Today, the air in Vantaa warmed up to almost 28 degrees, so for as late August as this place was quite crowded. In the late afternoon, we continued to Espoo for biking, just to explore around the city for fun. There we didn't even plan to swim, although we could have. Though I recorded some videos of the swimming places on our route and measured their water temperatures. The seawater there was today between 19 and 21 degrees. Although in Vantaa, the highest air temperature today went up to 27.8 degrees, in Helsinki Center, it only got to 25.3 degrees, and in Tapiola, Espoo, to 26. Both are closer to the sea, thus cooler. During our tour at the seaside, the wind cooled the air further down to about 22 degrees at 5 o'clock, and to 20 at 7 o'clock. To the southern Espoo, it's also easiest to come with metro. Espoo shares the common city bike system with Helsinki, which could maybe be utilized because also here the distances are long. While the landscape in the seafront of eastern Helsinki may be even more interesting, the coastline is much longer and very dispersed, and a lot of navigation is needed. In Espoo, the coastline is straighter and has an amazingly nice seaside bike road without many disconnections. Not much navigation is needed, and in some hours one can explore most of it. Our bike tour today only covered about 1/3 of the most essential section. If you get a good bike, I encourage you to go further, maybe all the way to the last metro station, or beyond. For me, the most interesting section is from Tapiola to Nurmijärvi. Tapiola itself may be worth of exploring too, particularly for those who are interested in the Finnish architecture of the post-war decades. Next, let's look at the only river swimming place in this video, a little further outside Helsinki. It is located in the city of Porvoo, which is the best preserved medieval town in Finland. The water on the surface was about 22 degrees, but perhaps only 20.5 meters. Almost always, it's a couple of degrees cooler here than in any of the lakes in the area, but after long and hot heat waves, 25 or more is possible here too. Sometimes we like to drive here because of the quietness and very special landscape in this place and in the nearby countryside. However, the soil in this area is mainly rock and clay, and there is a lot of agriculture. Thus, unfortunately, the water here is a bit muddy, and I like to take a shower afterwards. Like May, June was also warm in Finland. While on May, somewhere in Finland, we had 16 days with more than 25 degrees. In June, we had 15 such days. However, unlike in late May, now in June there were no long, really hot periods with about 30 degrees. However, June 28th was hot, around 30 degrees. My children were eager to go on a swimming trip somewhere we had never explored before. We headed to the Lahti region because it's just under an hour's motorway drive from the outskirts of Helsinki, and because it's where the Finland's lake region begins, with an indefinite number of sweetwater swimming places. We discovered all our spots along the road using Google Maps and explored them one by one, without any specific plan. Our first swim took place at a small lake about 30 kilometers before Lahti. The water was very nice, 26 degrees at the surface and pleasantly warm even deeper. For such a modest-sized lake, it offered good quality water. Scenery and atmosphere were also nice, and we liked this place. After our swim, we stopped for a buffet lunch at the ABC traffic station on the southern edge of Lahti. Other chains like Nesti offer similar servings at their main stations. Buffet prices range from 14 to 19 euros, with discounts for regular customers and higher prices on weekends. Service typically extends until 3, 4, or 5 p.m., depending on the location. These buffets typically feature a variety of main dishes, a generous salad bar, bread, drinks like water, milk, and fruit juice, along with simple desserts and coffee. They're all inclusive, and you can help yourself as many times as you like. While they surely aren't Michelin-star cuisine, they offer wholesome, home-style cooking quickly and at reasonable prices, almost every day of the year. This kind of food you could enjoy daily without compromising your health or weight. Buffets in larger locations may also feature less healthy options, such as pizza, but they don't compare in quality to those from real pizzerias. Finnish cities and towns are dotted with similar lunch buffets too, but most of them stop serving lunch earlier, typically around 1:30 or 2 p.m., with only a few extending to 3 p.m. Additionally, these buffets are not served on weekends. After lunch, we headed 15 kilometers east to Lake Kemijärvi. The water was 25 degrees on the surface, but a bit deeper, only about 23 degrees, and it was quite brown. The beach was quite shady too, and despite of a hot day, we didn't feel very nice or warm. This place was not our favorite. In a short time, we continued to Lake Villatain-Kukkonen, 5 kilometers further east. Here the water was very warm, about 26 degrees in all swimming depth, and we enjoyed it for a long time. This was a very small and pretty place with good atmosphere, and we liked it very much in every respect. Next, we continued another 5 kilometers further east to Lake Iso-Kukkonen. On the way, we found a picturesque little cafe in Nastola, in an old house next to an old church, where we stopped for a little break. Wonderful milieu. However, in the swimming place, the water was only 22 degrees on the surface and deeper even less, so it was the very coolest on this tour. This place was also shady, not so pretty, and had not pleasant atmosphere. Here we might not come again. Although this latest place was right next to the previous one, and these small lakes are actually connected, this was so much cooler. So let this be an excellent example, how even on the same day and on the same small lake, the water temperature difference can be 5 degrees or more, even when there is almost no wind. Therefore, if the day is warm but the lake is not, just go to another swimming spot nearby. Quite quickly, we continued to the next swimming place in Lake Pilvijärvi, 10 kilometers further east. Here the water was 24.5 degrees, and maybe a couple of degrees less in the depths. Although the water was not as warm as in some other places today, and this lake had a muddy bottom and quite brown water, we liked this place very much. The dock was good, the scenery was pretty, the place was small, and we were the only ones there. What a great visit. It was getting a bit late, so we turned back towards Lahti. On the road, we decided to have the very last swim in the urban area of Lahti, in Lake Hietsu. This swimming place was big and crowded, so the water was very mixed and very brown. But it was quite convenient 25 degrees from the surface to the bottom. As it was already 8 p.m., the beach was getting shady, and we didn't like the atmosphere here so much, we only swam briefly. Although this kind of crowded city beaches may not be our favorites, this might be just a good choice for you if you happen to be in this city. Before driving home, we decided to visit the city center of Lahti. This city I don't know well, so I don't introduce it much either. However, it is not a university city, but rather an industrial one, and particularly known as a winter sports center, having many international ski jumping and cross-country skiing races. The city center at 9 p.m. was even warmer than the surroundings because asphalt and concrete store the heat. All the bar terraces were full of people. On hot summer evenings, especially on weekends, all Finnish cities come very alive and have nice relaxed atmosphere. But for us, it was now time to drive back home. July started rainier and cooler than June, though there were some nice days. This graph shows the weather in our later destination, Kuopio, and also gives a good idea of conditions in our next destination, Lappeenranta, where temperatures reached 25.5 degrees on July 13th. The city and its beaches were alive with activity. I went there swimming to the Lake Saimaa, to the main swimming place of the city. It has a couple of beach lagoons and a huge swimming dock. I swam on the latter. The water there was quite nice, 23.5 degrees, and maybe just a degree cooler at a depth of a couple of meters. The lagoons with low water depth might have been warmer. Lappeenranta is located in the southern end of this famous Lake Saimaa. It's the southernmost city of this huge water body, which reaches the cities of Kuopio, Iisalmi, and Joensuu many hundred kilometers further north, and is Finland's largest. It's only about a 2-hour train ride from Helsinki. The fortress area, located on a hill next to the center with its cafes and museums, is particularly wonderful. Together with Kuopio and Savonlinna, this city is one of the most interesting places to visit in the Finnish Lake region. The weather was unstable in the following days, but the weather forecast for the week after that was excellent. So we decided to make the most of it and drove to Kuopio on July 20th. We drove there by a slightly unconventional route, partly through smaller roads, via towns Joutsa, Kangasniemi, and Pieksämäki. We stopped for a halfway coffee in Joutsa, which is a charming village along the main road. There is also a good swimming place which we visited. Even though in the previous week the weather was not so good, it rained heavily in this morning too, and the highest air temperature in Joutsa was only 23 degrees in that day. The water was already 23.5 degrees after a few hours of sunshine. We liked this swimming place. We were in Kuopio for a whole week. It was wonderful. In all those days, the daytime high was between 25 and 30 degrees, and the wind was mostly very light. We swam every day. Kuopio is a university city with about 100,000 inhabitants, being now the 5th largest Finnish city outside Greater Helsinki area. It's located quite in the central of Finland, about 4 hours drive from the outskirts of Helsinki. It's the largest and economically strongest city in the eastern Finland province. It is part of the same extensive water system as Lake Saimaa, undoubtedly the most famous of the Finnish lakes, and they are connected by waterways. Kuopio probably has the most water and hills of all cities in Finland and has an incredible 6,000 kilometers of sweetwater coastline, which make its scenery particularly interesting. On the day after our arrival, July 21st, we swam at a popular swimming place in the Camping Rauhalahti area, about 5 kilometers or 15 minutes biking from the city main square. The water temperature was a pleasant 24 degrees from the surface to the bottom. Although this place is in a camping area, it has free access all day. Good docks, a large sunny grassy area on the sandy beach, and gently deepening water in front of the beach are the strengths of this place. However, due to the muddy bottom in front of the docks and the large number of swimmers and some big boats which blend the mud to the water here is browner than in most other swimming places on this lake. There are always a lot of people here in good weather, but it never gets inconveniently crowded because the area is quite big. We came here again for swimming 3 days later, on July 24th. Then the water had warmed up to 25.5 degrees, although it was a much windier day. Most movies have a climax, and so does this video, I hope. On the second day after our arrival, July 22nd, the weather and water were just perfect. We drove by boat to the archipelago in the southern parts of the Lake Kallavesi, some 11 kilometers south of the city center as the bird flies. We conducted this trip with the most Finnish way from the beginning to the end, and for us this was our ultimate swimming trip in this summer. Our boat drive there took about an hour and 15 minutes with a very small boat with just less than 5 horsepower engine. We drove out of the urban area through a canal, which is popular for boat cruising. The lake area on the northern side of it is essentially a large bay that splits into 6 smaller bays, penetrating right into the middle of the city. The canal itself also runs through the city area, with houses nearly reaching the waterline. On a very warm and calm day like this, it may get quite warm on a slow open boat, even when wearing nothing more than a swimsuit. Thus, we stopped for a short swim about 4 times. The first stop was at the beginning of our drive, at 3:15. Here the water was just 24.5 degrees, so it must have got mixed during the earlier windier hours. The wind decreased, the clouds moved away, and the sun heated the still water. Around at 4 p.m., the surface water had warmed up to 25.5 degrees, which I measured in 2 different swims a 15-minute drive away from each other in the middle of the lake. The last measurement in these big open waters I did at 4:20. The water had now reached 26 degrees. In all these swims, the water was very warm in the entire swimming depth, maybe just a couple of degrees less in 2 meters. In a hot and very calm day like this, there is nothing nicer than a smallest possible boat, because it almost integrates you to the nature and the water, and with it one can land even to the rockiest islands. Our first landing we did at 10 to 5 on a wonderful low-water sand lagoon on island Hietaranta. It opens to the northwest, so the sun does not shine there well until the late afternoon. Also here, the water was 26 degrees, although the shade and the earlier wind from the south didn't favor this lagoon. This sandy lagoon is an awesome place. However, the weakness of it in July are gadflies, which is their high season. We encountered about 8 of them in just about 10 minutes. Because of them, we swam here only shortly, and then continued to an adjacent smaller island. There are more than 600 islands in the southern parts of this lake, so if you don't like one, you might like the next. It is very easy to find a nice and quiet place. About 100 of them, the green marked, are nature reserves. On them, it's prohibited to land during the birds' nesting season, before August. You must also stay far away from the houses or cottages. Our next island also had a small and very swimmable sand lagoon, but very shady, thus expected to have gadflies or even mosquitoes. We choose an open and very rocky spot that can only be reached by a very small boat. It was very plain and pointed northwest towards the late afternoon sun and had a place for campfire. We were here almost 3 hours until 8 o'clock and didn't see anyone else. The water on this shore was today cooler than elsewhere, only about 24 degrees, because earlier this day the wind was blowing from the south, and this shore faces north. Therefore, wind direction is the primary factor to consider if you want to swim in the warmest water. Select a shore towards which the wind blows. But 24 degrees was just perfect for us here, because it was very pleasant too, and we were almost boiling on this rock anyway and needed some 10 swims just for cooling. The lake bottom was nicely sandy here and of perfect depth. The rock itself we liked very much too, because on it our things stayed clean, unlike on sandy beaches. As is the local way, we brought with us some firewood to the island, made a campfire and fried sausage, which we enjoyed with mustard and drinks, among other servings. Fires should only be made on campfire places, which are found on very many of these islands, or the fire would damage these ancient rocks permanently. It's strictly prohibited if a forest fire warning is in force, which often is the case during dry heat waves. A big water bucket is a must-to-have for turning the fire off in the end. Or if it spreads, you don't want to burn an entire island down. The northern location surely has its disadvantages, but it has at least one advantage too. Here, even in midsummer, the sun radiation is just a fraction compared to southern countries. As a result, you don't burn here so very easily. For us, the BD here was awesome, but not easy to record it on video. Our return drive to the city was also enjoyable. However, as it had been a long day, we just drove back without any further swims. After trips like this, there is always some service to do. In the smaller cities in the lake region, such as Savonlinna, Mikkeli, and Lappeenranta, you can get on by foot. However, in all the Finnish cities bigger than them, I recommend moving around by bike or electric scooter if you want to explore anything else than just their centers. They are too big to move around on foot, and if using a car or public transportation, you won't experience the summer and see as nice places. Particularly in Kuopio and in greater Helsinki area, you really need a bike to experience the best of their very long waterfronts. In this city, it's very nice just cycle and explore everywhere, perhaps without a specific plan. Also, and especially in the late summer evenings, because they have amazing atmosphere. The summer nights here are very much brighter than, for example, in Helsinki, and the city does not even keep the streetlights on during the brightest 2-month period. Additionally, almost without exception, they're completely calm with no wind at all. For enjoying them, August is too late. Kuopio, like most Finnish cities, has a very popular and affordable city bike service. Unlike elsewhere, in Kuopio these bikes are electrically assisted because the city is quite hilly. Unfortunately, for leisure purposes, these public city bike services are not the best because the bikes must always be returned to the station within 30 minutes, or an additional fee will be charged. Although there are more than 40 stations in Kuopio, near to many a bit distant swimming places, there are not any. However, you can use these bikes continuously without extra charge even for the whole day, if before the deadline, you always put them back to some station for a few seconds. Your own bike, or an ordinary rental bike, would be more flexible solutions. Alternatively, you could use the electric scooter services, which are supplied by 3 companies here. In total, there are about 2,500 of them, and they lay everywhere. On July 23rd, the weather was slightly warmer than the previous day, but it was also windier, which cooled the water a bit. We decided to go cycling around the swimming spots on the northern side of the city. First, we swam at a small sandy beach on the southern edge of the city center, nestled at the base of a large bay. Despite the early hour, the water here was among the warmest of the day. With southerly winds, this swimming spot frequently has the warmest water in the city. During the hottest periods, temperatures can soar here to 28 degrees or more in the late afternoons. Particularly for those seeking the warmest waters, this spot is highly recommended during southerly winds. In the first few meters, the bottom is covered with small round stones, but beyond that, there is fine sand. The beach remains shallow for over 100 meters. Adjacent to the beach is a large park area featuring a playground and an ice cream kiosk. Our second swim today was at the city's main swimming spot, situated on a peninsula in the southeastern corner of the city center. Today, the water here reached 25 degrees thanks to the favorable wind direction. Normally, this spot isn't among the warmest due to its location at a large open water area, but today it came close. This place offers large docks, a spacious beach, beach volleyball courts, a beach bar, free warm showers, and a free outdoor gym, along with some other amenities. This is undoubtedly the largest and most popular swimming spot in the city. On this peninsula, there are also some smaller, quieter, sandy spots for swimming. During the next summer heat wave, the water in both warmed to nearly 29 degrees. The second of these spots offers a great city view and is sometimes completely empty. Our third swim took place at a boat dock just a short ride north. These days, it's seldom used by visiting boats, but swimmers have embraced it. Thanks to the favorable wind, the water here reached 24 degrees, although this spot is not typically among the warmest in town. This spot is perfect for sunbathing on the dock and enjoying quick swims. Swimming on warm, bright summer nights is an incredibly wonderful experience for both the young and the not so young. Our fourth swim took place in a small pond on the other side of the city center. Surprisingly, the water was cooler than at the previous spots. As with most ponds, the water quality isn't as good as that of actual lakes. However, the dock is good, and the large park surrounding the pond is exceptionally well maintained. At the southern end of the pond, there's also a beach. The northern end features the largest kids' playground in the city and a traffic park with free pedal cars. After lunch in the city center, we headed east to an expansive breakwater with large boat docks that also swimmers have adopted. The water here was pleasant 24.5 degrees. This spot is always in the sun and often has warmer water than many others, thanks to the shelter provided by the breakwater. You'll also find here one of the town's two major sauna and restaurant complexes. Our sixth swim, we had 2.5 kilometers further northeast. The water here was 23.5 degrees. Although its location at a large open water area doesn't promise the warmest water, today it was just about average. Our visits to the next three spots were just quick stops. The first was the coolest of the day and not one of our favorites. The second, though popular with the locals, wasn't our favorite either. However, our third swim, in a tiny pond, was a real highlight, perhaps because the water was a warm 26 degrees. It was time to turn back. Our next swimming place was small and unmarked on most maps. This spot featured a sandy beach and a small grassy area. 2 kilometers or 7 minutes cycling to the south, we had our second to last swim. Due to the crowds, the water was quite mixed and brown, and this place was not our favorite. We cycled over 30 kilometers and visited all but about 5 beaches on this side of the city. It was time for our final swim of the day. The water here was 23 degrees, likely due to the wind direction, making it one of the coolest spots today. We liked the bike route and its landscape in this lakeshore very much. July 25th was again a bit warmer than the previous day. At 8 o'clock in the evening, we again went to our new favorite swimming spot, the boat docks on the new breakwater. Towards the evening, it got very busy here. Still at 9:30 when we left, there were a lot of young swimmers and other people hanging around. The water remained at 26 degrees, as did the air. Today, the atmosphere here got quite Mediterranean, in a good way. Quite many might not expect it ever to be like this in far north as this. With not a single mosquito or gadfly, of course, as was the case with all our swims in this summer, apart from the boat trip to the wild nature. The very late sunset and light nights are something which make this something very special, even for me who is living close to Helsinki, only about 300 kilometers further south. Even though some hot days are possible in August too, you never get here the same atmosphere then. July 26th was the warmest day of this 1-week heat period. We wanted to do one more swimming round trip, and this time to some spots where we had never been. So we headed to the southern part of this city. Of the 8 swimming places there, we swam in 6. This trip we made by car because we had to be back at 3 o'clock. Our first swimming spot was about 10 kilometers south of the city center. It's a quiet beach at the end of a long bay, located near IKEA. The water temperature was very comfortable, 26.5 degrees and just slightly less at 2 meters deep. Our second spot was about 2 kilometers to the east. Also here, the water was a pleasant 26.5 degrees and just a bit cooler at greater depths. This is the biggest swimming place in the southern part of the city. Next, we headed 3.5 kilometers southeast. In a spot like this, I wouldn't assume warm temperatures, but today, even here, the water was 26 degrees. This is not a beach, but has small round stones, thus swimming shoes may be needed. This place has a very special character and landscape. Despite of the quite high temperatures, I somehow felt here like being in Lapland in September. Here also is a fancy fireplace and a shelter, with firewood provided by the city. However, some luck or walking will be needed if coming here by car, because in the nearby parking area there is place for only 2 cars, and street parking is not possible either. This time we had the luck, and the modern urban planning in a forest didn't wreck our swimming tour. Next, we headed 0.5 kilometer to northeast. But as we cannot fly and didn't swim there either, by road the distance was 4 kilometers or 11 minutes by bike. Please notice the unbelievably rocky waters in this lake area. The water here was 26.5 degrees in about 0.5 meter depth. The following summer 2025 was much cooler overall. However, during an exceptional 3-week heat wave in July, air temperatures hovered around 30 degrees every day, and the water warmed to 29 at this beach too. Our second last swim we had 3 kilometers to the north, or 9 minutes by bike. Due to the partially shady location at big open water and quite unfavorable wind direction, we didn't expect much from this place. The water was 23.5 degrees, the coldest today. This place is located on a quite nice area with a lot of fine houses, but this swimming place itself we didn't like too much. 1.5 kilometers or 5 minutes cycling to the north, we had our last swim on this tour. At 2:45, the water here was up to 25.5 degrees. This place is never expected to have the warmest water, but today it was warm here too. Sun shines here very late, so it's popular in the late hours of the day. This is the place which we saw 4 days earlier in the very end of our boat trip. Before switching to September and my late season special, let's first sum up the heat waves that defined the summer of 2024 from May through September. On this year, we had somewhere in Finland 71 days with more than 25 degrees, which is all-time high. The opportunities for swimming in relatively warm waters began about on May 25th and continued to September 10th. Thus, the swimming season very exceptionally lasted here 3.5 months. This map shows how these warm days were allocated around the country. Please notice that it rather indicates the probabilities for the very warm days in the entire summer than how the weather actually was somewhere in some specific period. For example, the most northern commune in Finland, Mustijoki, had 25 days with more than 25 degrees, which is less than in many areas in the south. However, from mid-July to mid-August, they had 22 of them, which is more than in any other commune in any of the Nordic countries. It's hard to read from this map how much the Baltic Sea is cooling the coastline. For example, in Helsinki Center, there were only 12 of these days in the whole summer. In September, the heat continued, and there were 8 more days with over 25 degrees somewhere in Finland, more than ever before. Maybe in as north as this, it shouldn't be like this, but as it was, I decided to enjoy the summer one more time. I took a couple of days off and drove to Kuopio on September 5th. This time I drove via the big main road as most people do, via city of Mikkeli, where I stopped for lunch. Because of fast charging, I choose ABC traffic station, but often I stop there for a lunch in one of the 2 other restaurants which serve excellent local cuisines in a buffet and have good prices for the quality. Such places aren't easy to find anywhere in Finland, thus I recommend them. The day was at its best, thus I choose to enjoy it a little bit and swam in a couple of spots where I had never been. In the first one, the water was 22 degrees on the surface and 20.5 meters. This was very warm for as late as this. The place was very quiet because it was Thursday, and the holiday season had definitely ended here. Additionally, in the minds of most Finns, September is just too late for swimming without sauna. I talked with some people here who advised me to have a look at another swimming place. The second spot was the main swimming place in this city. There, the water was 21 degrees, and a bit cooler in the depths, of course. In this place, too, there were just about 10 people. This place has a big dock with a diving tower and some services during the season. The park area close to it is nice, and there's a big restaurant nearby. I liked both of these 2 places. Just next to it, I noticed a new sauna and bar complex under construction which will open in December. Because of the soft ground, it's floating. It will also have a roof terrace and small outdoor pool, which is heated to 27 degrees all year round. A year later, we were back in the area. The sauna was unavailable due to a private event, but we spent some time on the rooftop terrace. Just a couple of hours later, I was to visit a comparable larger place in Kuopio. Let's start with water temperatures. Lake water was 22 degrees as per the gauge on the wall, as well as my own measurement, which was outstandingly warm for the time. The big infinity pool outside was 25 degrees. It's open all year round and quite warm during the coldest winter too, but then they cannot keep it as warm as this. The whirlpool bath inside was 33 degrees. So was the small warm pool outside. They're both very warm in winter too, although the outside pool is then a bit colder than now. There were not any people in either one of these warm pools. For me, it's a luxury, and it surely wouldn't happen in southern Finland. Thanks to the quietness, I was able to videotape most facilities here. Still, During weekends or holiday seasons, this place may be sold out too, so it's best to book in advance. This place has two saunas. The modern Finnish sauna is bigger, has quite mild temperatures and a beautiful view to the lake and infinity pool. The smoke sauna in a separate building outside is smaller and can take about 12 persons. It may sometimes be hot, but it depends on the visitors themselves. Usually, it's a super pleasant overall experience with just the perfect steaming and temperature for getting prepared for a swim in the lake. The lake is just a few steps away from this sauna, which makes swimming very pleasant and easy even during the cold season in water. The evening was exceptionally warm and beautiful too. This place I enjoy very much even in the poorest possible weather in late autumn, or in the dark evenings of the coldest winter days. Also, the restaurant is excellent both for dinner and lunch. It's a great example of the many Finnish restaurants serving inexpensive lunch buffets. This one with a lovely lakeside view. Right next to it, there are lakeside suites with their own docks, designed in a concept similar to the iconic glass igloos of Lapland, but offering views over the lake rather than the sky. Friday the 5th was almost as warm as Thursday the 4th. I did some biking and swam there once. Water was 22 degrees in this beach in northern Kuopio. Locals claimed that on the previous day, the water was about 25 somewhere close to this spot. I was not there to check it, but I consider that it could very well have been at least warmer than just the 22 which was elsewhere too. Although I know this city very well, I still managed to find a long forest bike road where I had never been. It raises from the north to the hill of Puijo. After just 5 minutes or 750 meters drive, there is a really nice fireplace at Heights, with a beautiful view to the lake. I also visited the tower, where you get 224 meters over the lake that surrounds it in every direction. On the next day, Saturday the 7th, I visited a private property in Maninka, half an hour car drive northwest of Kuopio. There, we swam in a delta of a tiny river. Just outside the stream, the water was 21 degrees. In the same day, before driving back home, I visited another of the two modern sauna complexes in Kuopio. Here the lake was no more than 18.5 degrees, perhaps due to the unfavorable location at big open water. In the other complex, it was still 20 an hour later. It was Saturday, and there were also other people, so I couldn't video record much, but at least another sauna was empty for a moment. This place doesn't have pools, but the facilities are really good, as are the two saunas. I have tried to get to the famous Loili sauna complex in Helsinki a few times, but it has always been sold out. However, I assume it's quite similar to this. Both are primarily restaurants, very modern, have good saunas, but no pools. Both have good access to water, but their terrace is open to the east, which is not optimal. Also, this is one of the very finest sauna complexes in Finland, and very recommended. Summer 2024 started exceptionally early, so I'll shortly take you to the season's start back when the video idea hadn't developed yet. May was very warm in Finland this year, having 16 days with more than 25 degrees. My first summer swims took place already on May 25th in Tampere. I headed there to a university suburb called Hietaranta, because it was easily accessible by car from the south, and because all its 3 swimming places are on small and therefore quickly warming lakes. I don't have any videos of them as I got the idea to this video later, but luckily, I took a few photos. In all of them, I measured the water temperature to be exactly 22 degrees, and the water was very pleasant for the entire swimming depth of about 2 meters. This was very high for the time. Please note that the biggest lake in the city, called Sääksjärvi, lost its ice cover only 3 weeks earlier. There were also many foreigners swimming, I guess Southern European students and Asian IT workers. I assume the water was warm enough for them too. My trip continued to the city of Kuopio, where we've already been. The weather and lakes were very warm there too, offering amazingly pleasant early season swims. A very nicely maintained park area with a free outdoor gym and kids' playground surrounds this pond, which had a very nice temperature for a May 23 degrees. Unfortunately, the water quality of these very tiny waters is usually worse than that of the real lakes. On the evening of May 31st, about at 10 p.m., I was on a car ride about 45 kilometers or half an hour northwest of Kuopio, in a little commune called Maninka. There, I had a pleasant swim in a beautiful lake, Mustijoki. The water was 23 degrees in the whole swimming depth, and quite far away from the lakeshore too. June 1st was hot, nearing 30 degrees. I drove to Kotka, a port city located 120 kilometers or 1 hour and 10 minutes drive east of the outskirts of Helsinki via the motorway. Although Kotka is a nice seaside city with many beautiful swimming places on the Baltic Sea, it doesn't have lakes. As it was a hot day there too, I went for swimming to the very last lakeside swimming place, which I found from the Google Maps, Lake Vuosaari, 8 kilometers north of Hamina. It had outstanding surface water temperature of 27 degrees, or about a couple of degrees less, in 1.5 meter depth. Let's switch to October, a bit beyond the topic of this video. No matter how warm or long has the summer been, in Finland, October is always autumn. Again, I tried to visit the Loili in Helsinki, but it was full. My plan B was Kuusijärvi in Vantaa, where we have been swimming earlier, which has some saunas too. The lake itself was just 10 or 11 degrees. Unfortunately, there was some poisonous blue-green alga that I have never seen here before. However, the day was very pretty. People were in a good mood and most sauna visitors were swimming too. Though, because of the crows, I couldn't video record much. This place has 2 ordinary Finnish saunas for men, and separately 2 for women. For additional fee, you may visit the 3 unisex smoke saunas. All the saunas are good, but the smoke saunas have much shorter access to the lake. This place is much less expensive than the modern ones, but outworn. Swimming shoes are recommended for more convenient access to the lake, particularly in the cold season. Due to the gravel paths to the lake, the floors have gravel too. The dressing rooms and showers of the smoke saunas are small. Thus, I recommend using the much more spacey ones in the main building. The lockers are outside of the dressing rooms. If you're searching for something authentic, and particularly very genuine smoke saunas, this place could be your favorite. They're now building here a new smoke sauna for 2.2 million euros. It might raise this place to another level. Although summer 2021 didn't have as many warm days as 2024, the heat period in July was a lot hotter than any in this year. Surface water warmed up to 28 degrees in many places in the afternoons. For the case you didn't like the places so far, or maybe they're too urban, I will show you one more very different and quite distant swimming place. It's a little national park, 1.5 hours drive northeast of Kuopio. Due to the wind, the water had got very mixed, and the peak temperatures were just a memory. However, it was still 25 degrees, and was that in every depth. Thanks to the dry hot period and wind, there wasn't a single gadfly or mosquito, which isn't very usual in this place in July. This is an amazingly nice place for those who like distant and quiet sandy lakes with beautiful small rivers and outstandingly beautiful swamp areas with Arctic cloudberries. Once we rented a canoe here, which is also a good way to see this place. With a canoe, you may see the rivers too, but by walking you actually see the lake and nature better. If you visit Finland in summer, be prepared for weather disappointments. During cool periods, daily highs may only reach 18 or less. If you're unlucky with the weather, you can still conveniently enjoy the lakes and the Baltic Sea from the local sauna complexes. If you're planning to do motorboating or campfires, make sure you have the necessary skills. I've included some tips on dealing with mosquitoes and gadflies in the description. Don't forget to wear a helmet when using electric scooters. This was my first composed video ever. I did it purely for my own summer enjoyment, and I had a great time doing it. I hope you enjoyed it too.